HOA Karen called cops on my farm. She panicked when I flashed my FBI badge and her warrant. Why would someone destroy another person's livelihood over a zoning dispute? The sun had barely cracked the horizon when I saw the first sign something was wrong. My irrigation line, brand new, expensive, and essential for this season's crop, was spewing water like a busted fire hydrant. I ran out in my boots, heart pounding, to find it had been slashed clean through. And standing there like a villain from a soap opera was her, Karen. Or, as the neighborhood called her, HOA Hydra. Always watching, always writing letters, always ready to strike with bylaws and threats. I warned you, she snapped without even turning to look at me. This farm setup violates Article 9, Section 3. No structures beyond standard residential use. You mean the legal greenhouse I've had inspected and approved? I replied, trying to stay calm. Karen's eyes gleamed like she'd just won a war. I've already called the police. She spun on her heel and stormed off, clipboard in hand, her little yappy dog trailing behind her. But what she didn't know, what she never bothered to ask, was who I really was. I wasn't just some farmer playing with soil. I was a suspended FBI agent on medical leave after an undercover op went sideways. This farm? It was my therapy, my rebuild. But apparently, for Karen, it was an offense to her perfectly curated suburban kingdom. As I bent to inspect the damage, I caught movement in the corner of my eye. A neighbor, Mrs. Nguyen, peeked out from behind her window, mouthing, "She did it." But Karen had already made her next move. By 8 a.m., 2 patrol cars rolled in. She followed them proudly, dressed like she was attending a garden club meeting, pointing wildly at my barn, my crops, my very existence. "Illegal modifications," she barked. "Hazards. Unregistered chemicals." The officer approached me, unsure. I could see doubt on his face. This wasn't his first Karen rodeo. Then came the twist. Before I could say a word, the other officer held up a photo on his phone. "Is this yours?" he asked. It was a security cam screenshot. Karen, under cover of night, crouched beside my irrigation pipe with garden shears in hand. I froze. That cam wasn't mine. A voice called out behind us. "It's mine," said Javier, a quiet veteran who owned the land across the fence. He stepped forward, holding a USB stick. "I've been watching my coop. She was trespassing." Karen turned white. "That's illegal surveillance." "No," Officer 2 said dryly. "It's legal on private property. And this is property damage." Karen's voice cracked as she shrieked about corruption, favoritism, conspiracies. And then I did it. I pulled up the hem of my shirt, just enough to flash the edge of my badge. Not as a threat, not to arrest her, just to remind everyone who they were really dealing with. The silence was thick enough to slice with a scythe. Karen took a step back, then another. And that's when the second twist dropped. Officer 1 held up a paper. "Ma'am, you're already under investigation for HOA fund mismanagement. This gives us cause to search your home. A warrant. Signed. Sealed. Ready." Karen tried to run. She didn't make it 2 steps before her heels caught on a garden hose. As they placed her in cuffs, her voice turned desperate. "You don't understand. He's turning this place into a compound. He's dangerous. Look at him." But no one looked. Not one person moved to defend her. Even the HOA board president, Mr. Daniels, stepped forward and quietly handed over a folder: financial records, emails, and internal complaints. She wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She'd been embezzling, gaslighting, and blackmailing the entire street for years. And today the house of cards collapsed. Her dog barked. No one picked it up. I stood there, not triumphant, but tired. She picked the wrong farm, the wrong man, the wrong battle. And as the squad car pulled away, Karen sobbing inside, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. But I also felt something deeper: sadness. For the way ego poisons community. For how control turns to cruelty. For how some people would rather destroy than coexist. What do you think? Was justice truly served here, or did it come too late? What would you have done if you were in my boots? They took her away just before noon. The patrol car stirred up dust as it disappeared down the long gravel drive, leaving behind a silence that wasn't peaceful but heavy. Javier gave me a small nod before disappearing back to his own plot. I stood there a while longer, just breathing. But it didn't end there. About an hour later, a black SUV rolled in. Out stepped a woman in a navy blazer and sharp eyes that didn't miss a single detail. "Agent Carter?" she asked, not even blinking at the dirt under my nails or the sweat-stained t-shirt I wore. "Used to be," I said. "Not anymore." She handed me an envelope. "Your suspension has been lifted." I froze. "Why?" "Because you just blew open a local corruption case we've been circling for 2 years," she said. "We had her flagged as a person of interest, but never had enough to act. Your footage, Javier's recording, Daniel's documents, it's more than enough." I opened the envelope, stunned. Inside, reinstatement papers. A return path I didn't even ask for. "I just wanted to be left alone," I muttered. "You exposed a regional embezzlement ring," she said. "You weren't exactly laying low." Over the next week, everything unraveled for Karen. First came the HOA audit. Turned out she'd been siphoning dues into personal accounts for 3 years funding spa days. Fake landscaping bills, even vacations. She'd used her power to bury complaints, retaliate against homeowners, and inflate her own authority. The board voted to dissolve under emergency order. Then came the civil suits. 5 neighbors filed within days: property damage, harassment, libel. More came after. It was like floodgates had burst. The neighborhood, once kept silent by her tyranny, had finally found its voice. Her house, seized as part of the investigation. Her job, terminated with public apology. Her husband, filed for divorce the same week. It was almost biblical. A collapse so total, so swift, it left even her enemies a little breathless. But not everyone saw it that way. One night, as I was fixing the fence she'd trampled during her final tantrum, someone approached through the dark. I turned, cautious, but it was Mrs. Nguyen. "I brought banh mi," she said softly, holding out a small paper bag. "And something else." She pulled out a faded photo. It was of Karen, much younger, smiling, standing beside Mrs. Nguyen at a charity garden event. "We used to be friends," she whispered, "before she changed." I looked closer. The photo showed 2 women planting flowers together, sleeves rolled up, dirt on their cheeks. Happy. "What happened?" I asked. "She lost her baby," Mrs. Nguyen said, tears pooling in her eyes. 15 years ago. Complications. She withdrew. Then she got angry, controlling, started fixing everything around her because she couldn't fix what mattered. I said nothing. What could I say? "That doesn't excuse what she did," she added quickly. "But I thought you should know." The twist hurt more than expected. Karen had caused so much damage, emotional, financial, communal. But behind her cruelty was something broken, something unresolved. It didn't change what I felt, not really, but it complicated it. 2 months passed. The farm began to thrive again. I repaired the irrigation, doubled crop yield, and even opened weekend tours for local schools. Kids laughed among the tomatoes she once tried to ban. Parents bought produce from the very land she called a nuisance. Justice had been served, but I never danced on the ashes. One morning, I received a letter from county jail. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Slanted, stiff, controlled. All it said was, "I still think you didn't belong here, but I see now I didn't either. I'm sorry about the pipe and the lies. I lost more than I thought possible. Maybe you did too. K." I folded the letter and slid it into a drawer. I wouldn't forget what she did, but I wouldn't carry it with me either. There's something to be said about confronting pain with purpose. Karen tried to crush what she didn't understand. I built a life out of what crushed me. In the end, we both exposed ourselves, just in different ways. Some say she got what she deserved. Others say the system was too hard on her. So I ask you, what do you believe? Was Karen a villain or a victim of her own tragedy? Did justice whine, or did we all lose something along the way? Share your thoughts below, because real stories deserve real conversations. Winter came early that year. The frost clung to the greenhouse glass like quiet memory. The field once torn by Karen's sabotage was now thick with ryegrass cover crops, glowing silver in the morning mist. Life always finds a way to mend itself when left in peace. But something in me still stirred uneasily. Her letter haunted me more than I wanted to admit, not because I forgave her, but because of the part of me that understood what loss could do to a person. I'd lost teammates, friends. I'd lost the part of myself that believed every mission could be clean, that the world sorted itself into good and bad like lines on a briefing slide. But now I knew better. The town moved on, mostly. The HOA dissolved. A new community group formed, this time elected, transparent, and rotating leadership every 6 months. Neighbors who had once nodded in passing now held monthly potlucks under string lights in Mr. Danielle's backyard. The silence Karen had used to control people had been replaced by shared laughter, voices raised in debate, kids playing in front yards. But then, another twist. At one of the community nights, while chatting near the fire pit, a woman I hadn't met before approached. "You're the farmer guy," she said, cradling a mug of cider. I nodded. "Depends who you ask." She smiled wryly. "I'm Karen's sister." The fire popped. My jaw tensed. "I'm not here to defend her," she said quickly. "We weren't close, but I wanted to see the place. The one she kept writing about in those paranoid letters. Said it was a compound for federal surveillance or something." She chuckled dryly. I didn't respond. "She wasn't always like that, you know," she said after a pause. "Our mom was hard. Real hard. Karen always felt she had to be in control to be safe. She hurt a lot of people," I said quietly. "I know. She lost her appeal last week. She'll be serving time." A long silence stretched between us. "I'm sorry for what she did to you," she added. "But thank you for not humiliating her when you could have." She feared public shame more than prison. I looked at the field, now dark beneath the stars. There's no pride in revenge. Just wait. That winter I got a call from HQ again. Another assignment. High priority. They said I could bring someone onto the team, someone who'd proven their instincts. I called Javier. He laughed for 2 minutes straight before saying yes. The night before I left the farm again, I stood under the porch, watching the wind move the trees. The wooden sign Karen had once tried to burn down still hung on the front gate, repaired and restained. A gift from the neighborhood. Rooted in truth. Grown with defiance. Funny how something so fragile, soil, seed, silence, could survive so much noise. And so this is how it ends. A woman who tried to erase what she didn't understand is now a ghost in court records. A community once strangled by fear now thrives in freedom. A man who lost everything in a failed mission found peace in the dirt and purpose again in justice. But the story still echoes. Because this isn't just about Karen. It's about control. About grief. About how power in the wrong hands doesn't just corrupt, it consumes. So I'll ask you one last time. When someone breaks the rules to protect their pain, where should mercy end and justice begin? What would you have done if the law was on your side and the whole town was watching? Your voice matters. Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk.